very good evening, Eswatini. This is Eswatini TV News Bulletin 8, read to you by myself, Notile Sitole. First up, here's a look at tonight's headlines. Young warriors from the whole region continue to receive Tinkunzi from His Majesty King Eswatini III. The Minister of Home Affairs, Princess Lindiwe, says the ministry has insufficient staff and equipment, something that has resulted in poor service delivery. The acting Public Services Minister, Moses Vilagati, says government's negotiation team and the public sector associations are engaged in discussions regarding civil servant salary review. And now our bulletin in detail. Young warriors from the whole region continue to receive Tinkunzi from His Majesty King Eswatini III. This exercise is expected to take place in all the chiefdoms under the 4 regions of the country.
The exercise of distributing Tinkunzi to Ingache proceeded in the Hoho region. The activity commenced a few weeks back and it started from other regions of the Kingdom of Eswatini. This follows His Majesty's command of giving warriors these gifts even though things are not normal this year, since this is not the way these gifts are normally distributed to the regiment. The headman of the Royal Corps in Kanini, Mashishini Dvube, said they are very grateful to be remembered by His Majesty in these trying times. Dvube said this is evidence that their Majesties love and care for their people.
Uphakamisa kubonga kakhulu emakhosini inkosi yami na namakunjena nje esikhatsini lesinjengalesi sekuhlupheka lesibekuso. Kepha emakhosi ayasikhumbulile siphakamisa kubonga ukukhulu Nkosi yami besingabhekana lutho kepha emakhosi asicabangela nje ukuthi kukhona lokwendiwe kufanele asijabulise nathi sijabulile kakhulu Nkosi.
Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, only a few of Ingacha attended the Lusekwane ceremony as a way of preventing the spread of the virus. This exercise is expected to proceed to the Manzini region when they are done with the Hoho region. On the news, I'm Polile Mazia with Tabiso Dlamini at Nkanini.
The Minister of Home Affairs, Princess Lindiwe, says the COVID-19 outbreak has exposed that the ministry has insufficient staff and equipment, which resulted in poor service delivery, especially under the civil registration and vital statistics. The minister said this when presenting the ministry's 2020-2021 financial report to the House of Assembly Portfolio Committee.
The Minister of Home Affairs, Princess Lindiwe, says the civil registration and vital statistics observe an upsurge in the registration of current births, deaths, and national identity enrollment. She says this was a result of the suspension of the other services for 7 months, which has created a backlog which the ministry is currently battling with. The minister says it is for that reason that there are long queues in the ministry centers.
Kunesimo lesikhulu lesidinga ukuthi asibuke bekumele ukuthi senziwa njani nekuthi basitiwo ngoba indaba i-outside sesibone vele sonke sesibonile abantu bagcwele emalayini bafuna ukusitankala balala emigwaqweni sesive siphila kabuhlungu ngendaba yokuthi kude abantu abasebenzayo lapha ngekhaya kahulumeni affairs imishina kufana nekuthi kude bancane kakhulu abantu abalala ngekhaya.
The Minister of Home Affairs House of Assembly Portfolio Committee complained of poor service delivery in the ministry service centers. They say the ministry should find a way to improve the situation, as most of them are not getting assistance countrywide.
Mane litiko lisengedele umshini ube munye at least ibe 2 per service center.
No, they don't need that. How come we don't have 100 to about 20? Now I'm so glad that I'm married. Good thing to do. I'm machine wala home office wala. They don't like it. These people come never tell him
The minister says permits for temporary stay in the kingdom still remain the largest contributor to revenue at 87.14%, followed by travel document at 5.72%. For Eswatini TV News, Fortune Dlangamandla, Parliament.
While the outbreak of COVID-19 has severely strained Eswatini's economy, however, the pandemic has not been as brutal as economists initially feared it would. The Minister of Economic Planning and Development, Dr. Thambo Gina, says projections had shown the country's economy would shrink by 5.4%, yet that has not been the case, as Eswatini's overall economic decline in the past quarter has only been 2.4%. The minister said this in Parliament when presenting the ministry's performance report for the 2020-2021 financial year.
The Minister of Economic Planning and Development, Dr. Thambo Gina, says while Eswatini's economy has undoubtedly undergone serious strains caused by the outbreak of COVID-19, yet still the kingdom's economy proved resilient enough to withstand really tough times. The minister, however, warns that medium-term projections indicate that there will be slow economic growth owing to many uncertainties like the flow of SACCO receipts amid the pandemic. Minister Gina says the government of Eswatini has also made several interventions to help stabilize the economy.
When a 323,200,000 imali capital budget, lebe seyantshintsha seyaridirectwa seyosita bo NDMA. Lokunye ke lokumqwa kakhulu iministry ibambisene neMinistry of Finance yakhulumisana nabo IMF nabo World Bank yakhalfaka some procedures which were worked on, created by the ministry, were paving the way for concessional loans.
Reacting to the minister's performance report, members of parliament requested the minister to strengthen and support the work being done by the micro projects unit, especially since the department's core work impacts eMaswati people in their daily living.
Nisicelele enduneni ukuthi asike fike vele isikhathi ukuthi lo micro project anikwe timbiko letiningane ngoba sekulukhulu ukuthi amkhanza lena le the same time lo les mina nje ngisawangiphisa lamanye lamatiko ukukhulukhuluse lo micro project
ulethi imvula nje letendekile baka disaster lenkundleni sebangisithile etindlu letingakhi leting4 labatendile yente kanyalo le.
The minister then requested members of parliament to approve the ministry's 1.5 billion emalangeni 547,165,000 budget. For Eswatini TV News, Hlengiwe Ndlovu with Muzi Mkhonda in parliament.
The Minister for Tinkhundla and Development, David Ngampalala, has officially announced the construction of the new Mtsambama Constituency Centre. Ngampalala says it is the government's objective that every constituency has a centre so that all residents can access effective service delivery for development.
It has been over 8 years since the Mtsambama constituency building walls started cracking. The Minister for Tinkhundla and Development, David Ngampalala, says a new construction of the centre will commence on Monday, the 12th of March, and it will cost a total of 2.2 million emalangeni. Ngampalala says the projected completion period of the construction is 9 months.
Ukuthi akusebenzeki nathi sesibonile nisuke la senisebenzela le kahlathi kanti sive phela lesanithuma sila lokusho nje ukuthi lo msebenzi sekuphelile konke lebekulungiswa naba belitiko nabo bonke sevela ngumsebenzi lokubhekeke ukuthi utoqala kusetshenzwe leSeptember mhlonishwa ukuthi awu uyathi nawe fika isikhathi lapha kubhekwa ngakhona ube sowuyishila induku ebandla ukuthi sakhiwo
Mtsambama Member of Parliament Simosake Shongwe thanked the Ministry of Tinkhundla and Development for the project.
Kungaba kubonga nje kakhulu enduneni na PS na ihulumende ngoba nami kufika kwami ngikhanzela inkundla vele inje ivele ifile sithe nje inkundla sasebenzela ngaphansi esihlahla ngasina ngibabikela ke cha basukumele edulubete abatobuka nangicela base bathi ke konke bakushiya kimi ke nami ke bengihlala ngikubagugudela njalo sengibonga namhlanje lokuthi seyinedindlungulo bethatha icela taba khona sesibukile naye minister ufike uyayibusisa indzawo lamhla uyangithembisa ukuthi umsebenzi utawuqala nje in 9 months time sidabe nathi sesinendzawo yokusebenzela ngathi ngiloko nje lo ngubonga kakhulu.
Shongwe says the project brings so much joy and relief to him and his council because working in the old building was a daily occupational hazard. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, I am Sifiso Nxumalo with Smuva Shongwe.
The acting Public Services Minister Moses Vilakazi says government's negotiation team and the public sector associations are engaging regarding civil servant salary review. He said this when presenting the ministry's 2020-2021 annual performance report before the House of Assembly Portfolio Committee.
In the 2020-2021 annual performance report that the acting Minister of Public Service Moses Vilakazi presented to the Ministry's House of Assembly Portfolio Committee, the Minister said the Ministry continues to foster harmonious industrial relations across the public sector in spite of the prevailing fiscal challenges. Minister Vilakazi says through Circular number 5 of 2020, government offered a cost of living adjustment of 3% and a 1% once-off payment on the salary. The minister added that government's negotiation team and the public sector association are still in talks regarding salary review. The minister says nothing has been finalized yet.
Salary reviews, siyakhulumisana ngetisebenti izinje kunenge lesikhulumisa bantu ke baye basebakhokha ke lokwa nalokwa kanti suke ngisakhulumisa ukuthi sekunje salary review kuyakhulunyiswana njengoba beshinto chairman ukuthi khona isubside sibuka kona ukuthi nyalo sibamba kanjani simo lesi senkingeni kuso simo setemnotho ukuthi simeka kepha ke lokukahle ukuthi siyakhulumisana sisabuka ukuthi ama options ngaphi.
Members of the ministry's portfolio committee asked questions. One of the questions was in regard of the salary freeze, retirement packages, as well as house allocation to civil servants.
Lesikhathi lesisebenzako lithi sesineni futhi deserve ukuthi ngabe tithola i-overtime
ukuthi labantu bazabathethe bathethwe ama-contract so ngicela ukuthi kube yinto ezinzima ukuthi ama-contract just nakuphela i-covid size bese bahlala ekhaya wayebangaxasha nje emali nto.
The minister says in an effort to contain the wage bill, the Ministry of Public Service has continued to adhere to Circular number 3 of 2018, which freezes the filling of vacant posts, the creation of new posts, as well as promotions within government ministries. He says the implementation of the circular has resulted in government's payroll drop by 0.9% when compared to previous year 2019-2020. For Eswatini TV News, Fortune Dlangamandla, Parliament.
The Minister of Public Works and Transport, Chief Ndlalhlaza Ndwandwe, says the ministry has applied soil stabilization technology ProBase in 70% of the roads that were initially targeted for rehabilitation. The minister says the ProBase program comes to an end in 2021. Minister Ndwandwe gave this update in Parliament when presenting the ministry's performance report for the 2020-2021 financial year.
When presenting the ministry's performance report for the 2020-2021 financial year, the Minister of Public Works and Transport, Chief Ndlalhlaza Ndwandwe, explained that the past months have been exceptionally challenging for the ministry as the working environment deviated from normal due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The minister says the heavy rains that came about as effects of Cyclone Eloise also left a trail of destruction across the kingdom, thus leaving the ministry with the mammoth task of fixing damaged infrastructure and especially roads. Amid these challenges, the minister requested members of parliament to approve the ministry's 2021-2022 budget.
Kusho ukuthi le mali ngidayisho nje lesamba sayo ngingayihlukanisi ibudget lecelwa litiko bahlonishwa ngo2 billion 389 million 865,135 emalangeni.
Members of parliament expressed sheer disappointment in the ministry's overall performance, with the main bone of contention being damaged roads.
Yebo, uMinister uyacela ukuthi sim-approve le mali
but engazuthi kusuke kugijima kakhulu ama projects lawa la ahulumende la khethwa nguhulumende, but lalo kufanele ayebanga usihlalo aswaboni litiko lwakhuthalela
mase ibuka selitiko le pro base compared to lokunye ngabekisa njengalesinye lisile lokukhulunywa ngayo la ngibekise mhlambe ne tarot lesijwayele bese ke sesena lapho lekuswa i-cost benefit analysis sikukhanza ngazuthi kukahle yini ingimalini i-kilometer le-pro base ingimalini i-kilometer lesinye lisile noma le-tarot.
In another matter, the minister gave an assurance that the ministry is now ready to undertake the resettlement process for households and properties that will be affected by the Sitfo-Godfolotha railway project. For Eswatini TV News, Hlengwendlo with Muslim Konda in Parliament.
The Ministry of Tinkhundla and Development has officially handed over 2 classrooms at Jericho Primary School in the Shiseleni region. The Minister for Tinkhundla, David Ngampalala, says the project was funded by the Regional Development Fund.
The construction of the 2 classrooms cost a total of 700,000 emalangeni. The Minister for Tinkhundla and Development, David Ngampalala, says with the current constraints of the COVID-19 pandemic, now more than ever is the most suitable and convenient time for the addition of classrooms in the school as they aid social distancing.
Nembalake namhla silapha netiko laka education utowethule ma class lakhiwo ngiyole mali levele eParliamente yabusiswa ngiyo ingwenyama ukuthi yawusite eMaswati ifika ke ngesikhathi lesinhle lapha sathi ukuthi kunemikhuhlane kudingeka ikola kwandise emaklasi ngendaba yalomkhuhlane ukuthi kubonakale naso lesikhwama sifaka sandla lesikhulu kuleso simo lesifikile evele siyadumisa ke kakhulu kuyumhlonishwa njengoba siyathi ukuthi bafaka sandla kwelekelela nesikolwa kuze kumithe leyo 10% kwethu namhlanje kuthatha emaklasi sinike litiko laka education ukuthi lihambe liyawusebenta siqhubekele kulokunye ukuthi RDF lobuya kuhulumende wembube akubonakale ayawusita eMaswati on the ground.
The Minister for Education, Lady Howard Mabuza, thanked the Ministry of Tinkhundla and Development and the Regional Development Fund for funding the project.
Siya appreciate kakhulu afike ngesikhathi lesikahle lalo la khona sidinga vele ema classrooms lamanengi kuto distance abantwana kahle ngalesikhathi sa COVID. Siyabonga kakhulu eTinkhundleni, siyawujabulela kakhulu umsebenzi lesibambisene kuwo ngeTinkhundla. Kuyabonakala isikolo siyathuthuka kwendeka into leti positive, siyakujabulela nje kakhulu lokho kungaba kukhutsata naso sive nje kuthi akusukuba ngemaklasi kuphela akube ngilolonke luhlobo lwelusito lolungalekelela eMaswati as ahleti lamakhaya intuthuko ichubeke iye embili.
Sandleni Member of Parliament Noah Gama also expressed his gratitude on behalf of his constituency. Gama says education is the key to success and he is thankful to the Ministry of Tinkhundla and RDF for being catalysts in accelerating education development in his constituency. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, I am Sifiso Nxumalo with Smuva Shongwe, Jericho.
The government of the Kingdom of Eswatini has commended the United Nations Populations Fund for continuing to support the country in ensuring that the United Nations development goals are implemented. This was said by Undersecretary in the Ministry of Economic Planning and Development, Siboniso Masilela, during the virtual launch of the Kingdom of Eswatini and United Nations Populations Fund's 7th country program document held at Roa Villas in Eswatini.
The launch of the 7th country program, a document between the United Nations Populations Fund, UNFPA, and the Kingdom of Eswatini will help the country to implement various programs in line with the United Nations Sustainable Development Cooperation framework, including the goal of the government of the Kingdom of Eswatini Vision 2022, which is reinforcing inclusive growth and sustainable development and ultimately to improve the quality of lives of Emaswati. Under-Secretary in the Ministry of Economic Planning and Development, Siboniso Masilela, says the collaboration with UNFPA is vital to the improvement of the livelihoods of Emaswati in the country and when considering the years in which this assistance has been provided.
Baga UNFPA balibambisa ke live ukuthi nalo nelive likhone kufinyelela kula ma targets la ngalasethwe ngumhlabuhlangene ukuthi live ngalinye lelilunga labuhlabuhlangene liwa achieve ku UNFPA kunemali la ibeka aside lenga about 5 million US dollars.
UNFPA Head of Office Margaret Twala Dembe unpacked the program document.
Sitawubuka indaba ukuthi bonesi kakhulu laba babelekisi bafundiseka kahle yini. Bese sibuka nebani labasha ngabantu abasha abaningi kangangwane and nayo lama clinic zodwa ukhanza ukuthi imajority vele laba pregnant ngalabasha. So lo hlelo lubukena indaba ukuthi lo mlomusha ngabe singamgcina kanjani esikolweni.
UNFPA Country Director Beatrice Mutali says the 7th country program has been aligned to the National Development Strategy NDS and the Strategy for the Sustainable Development and Inclusive Growth, which are the overarching development framework of the nation, including Vision 2022 and attainment of the First World status. The outbreak of COVID-19 has negatively affected many programs in the country, which the government was already working on, including minimizing the increase in the number of teenage pregnancies. For Eswatini TV News, Zodwa Dlamini with Mbonga Dube, Ezulwini.
National Agricultural Marketing Board has donated more than 1,000 PPEs to farmers and other stakeholders with the aim of minimizing the spread of COVID-19. The PPEs were presented by NAMPOD's Chief Executive Officer, Siphepiso Dlamini, at Ngabeni in Matapa.
The PPEs include face masks and hand sanitizers and will be donated to farmers and other stakeholders in need. Presenting the PPEs, NAMPOD's Chief Executive Officer, Siphepiso Dlamini, says the outbreak of COVID-19 has negatively affected many sectors of society. Therefore, there is a need for companies and organizations to assist the government on this regard.
sibani bakangwane ukuthi silwe iCovid ngoba ifuna kuliwa siyeva nje sekhulunywa nge-third wave ifuna kuliwa asibambisaneni sithi sichubeka kuvela okunye usikhanze siyimbuba simlalela health sibambisana naye sibambisana nawo onke ematiko.
Mazini Regional Administrator Chief Gija, who spoke on behalf of the recipients, says in order for the pandemic to be alleviated, there is a need for Emaswati to work together.
Siyabonga kakhulu lokuleli kuvedile ungakubika ukuthi nakuncane lokho kukhulu kakhulu impela kuyawubamba uphefumulo umuntu uphile kudala bamba live uphile ube wathi lo munye nakafundisako wathi iCovid idala ukuthi ukuthi okukhona kuhle nekuletha iletha ukubambana sibe munye.
The PPEs is expected to be presented to the various organizations and farmers in need. For Eswatini TV News, Zodwa Dlamini, picture source from NAMPOD.
A very good evening once again. You are still watching Eswatini TV. Now we'll have a look at our sports news. Singizini Hotspurs Football Club under the Shiseleni region are victorious in the matchup between them and Amalanda, also from the Shiseleni region. Amalanda had filed an urgent application to the High Court on the matter of their protest against a player used by Singizini Hotspurs in their playoff second leg encounter back in December 2020. Both teams appeared before Judge Fagudze at the High Court of Eswatini.
The matter between Nsingizi Hotspurs and Amalanda, both under the Shiseleni region, appeared before Judge Mzwandile Fagudze. The matter between Nsingizi Hotspurs and Amalanda, both under the Shiseleni region, appeared before Judge Mzwandile Fagudze. Singizini was represented by Dlamini Kulen Association, while Amalanda was represented by Makagula Store attorneys in the matter. Both teams met in the Super League playoffs last year, and Singizini was victorious in their first leg. In the second leg, Amalanda lodged a protest against Hotspurs, issuing that they had used a player that was not supposed to be used by the name of Sebenele Dlamini. Amalanda then took the protest to the appeals board, who found the protest null and void as per the constitution of the Super League, article number 9.1, that states that any protest regarding defaulters must be lodged to the referee before the start of the match or before the player is introduced to the field of play. The matter on Monday proceeded in front of Judge Fakutse, where Football Association in the matter prayed to the court that the matter should be referred back to the appeals board for deliberation with interpretation of the Article 9.1. Judge Fakutse then granted the matter to return to appeals board for deliberation with Article 9.1 being the center stage of the issue. Football Association in the matter was represented by SV Mhlala Associates. For Eswatini TV Sports, Fabrice Msonera, High Court.
Athletics Association of Eswatini President Zakhele Dlamini says the association will be soon recruiting 40 young athletes from the 4 regions of the country for trainings. Dlamini was speaking during the annual general meeting of the association hosted online this past weekend.
Athletics Association of Eswatini hosted their annual general meeting this past weekend. At the meeting that was conducted virtually due to the ongoing coronavirus pandemic addresses different issues pertaining to the development of the sport. It was also detailed that much could not be discussed in last year's report of activities as majority of events failed to take place due to the pandemic.
Good young athletes, like 40. They start for 10.
In his remarks, the association's president Zakhele Dlamini highlighted that they will be soon starting a program of reaching to athletes found in the 4 regions of the country. Dlamini highlighted that this is in line with the development progress where athletes have to start preparing for their future. Dlamini says it will also serve as a chance for some of the school athletes to showcase their talent.
A technical committee to say pick up from 40 9.
Issues also discussed in the meeting include rules and regulations of the association. For Eswatini TV Sports, Fabrice Msonera, Babane.
Well, Eswatini, that is all we had for you this evening. Before we conclude, let's have a relook at tonight's headlines. Young warriors from the whole region continue to receive tinkunzi from His Majesty King Eswatini III. The Minister of Home Affairs, Princess Lindiwe, says the ministry has insufficient staff and equipment, something that has resulted in poor service delivery. The acting Public Services Minister, Moses Vilagati, says government's negotiation team and the public sector associations are engaged in discussions regarding civil servant salary review. And with that, we sum up our bulletin for the evening. Up next is the weather update from us here at Eswatini TV. Thank you for watching. Good night.